Welcome to Aftermath's Gold Challenge Mode Guide. I'm Marza, and this is Gate of the Setting Sun. Okay, you'll notice that right away we go to pull this entire first room except for the last group. That's because the last group has another one of these demolishers, and they throw extra bombs at you. And we just found that in general it was not super worthwhile to try and deal with too many extra. With this particular group, we used an Army of the Dead here because this could be a somewhat tricky pull, but this was also one of the earlier challenge modes we did, and I suspect that it's fine without it. We have most of the group standing on top of me because the little guys drop smoke bombs, and it will be difficult to have LOS for healing and DPS purposes. The main issue is that it's hard to dodge the bombs while you're all sort of in a clump, like they're hard to see. So just do your best to avoid them, and you'll get through there just fine. This pack is just a vastly easier version of what you just killed, so it should go without too much issue. Note that the Demolisher can throw the bombs on the stairs and in the corners and stuff. There's not really anywhere safe. People just need to be aware. Also, the Sappers will jump on people's backs and stun them, and require them to take some extra healing, and it's sort of easier if everybody's somewhat clumped because you can DPS all three of them a lot better, as opposed to if everybody's spread out and the sappers are jumping on people's backs across the room. We go in to pull the boss a little later here than ideal, but you can pull him as soon as that stuff's getting low and reasonably assured to die. That's going to be a common trend in any challenge mode. Make sure that your healer has mana. He should, but if they don't, listen to your healer. They do need mana. For this boss, we use Time Warp because we know that it will be back up again for the last boss, and it's ideal to get two of them. We don't need it anywhere else in this instance particularly. You only barely have to try to avoid blowing up bombs in this on challenge mode, at least when you're killing them quickly like this, because there simply won't be very many. One thing that is important to note is that if you get a sabotage on you just before the boss dies, it will still explode. The remaining bombs in the room will not explode, but if someone with sabotage tries to run out the door first or something, they're gonna drop a fire trail on top of everyone else. So like if you had sabotage right there, you would want to wait. This pack right here, and several of the next packs of trash, this left mob, the Wind Shaper, you want to interrupt it as soon as you can. The Wind Force, or whatever it is he's casting, does a fair bit of damage. You can see I used a stun here after I interrupted him. The other thing is you need to look out for them channeling Gale Winds. It's a group-wide damage spell that they use, and your healers will definitely complain if you don't get rid of that one. They're also very squishy though, so we tend to focus them down, and you can see we get these infiltrators low and take off again. We use a roar here because it's such a long run. If you don't have one available to you, you'll just have to make up some time elsewhere. If you see the gate in front just kind of bounced, that's when that guy charges at Rygon. If you watch his animation right here, you can see it jump, and if you jump when it's going off, you do not get stunned. If you don't jump, you'll get stunned in place for about 2 seconds. We use an army for this pack. Not actually ideal, because the Ragers cleave, and the army will cause them to spin around, but this group is extremely high damage, and they drop smoke bombs. So, we opted to use army here, but I'm not entirely sure it's the best choice in hindsight. Just be prepared to use cooldowns is the gist of it, because you're going to take a lot of damage. Other people are going to need to interrupt the Wind Shapers. You see we have one marked, one unmarked. We burned them down first. And then we just get rid of the cleaving guys, the Ragers, and head on to the next group. For this group, there are exactly 2 mobs in this instance that you can skip in order to meet the enemy killed count, and we decided this would be the easy group to skip. We ideally CC both of them, but we actually were using a different group comp, and so our Warlock didn't know that he was supposed to CC that one, that's why I'm tanking it, but it doesn't actually matter. We kill this Wind Shaper super quick, and then we freeze the rest in place, and just run on up to the elevator. Once you're on the elevator, they'll just evade out and stay down there. This is a great opportunity for people to drink, but We had several times where I got antsy and clicked the elevator too soon, too. Make sure everybody jumps when they're coming onto the elevator, otherwise, if you run onto it, you might fall through it or you might get stuck on the lip. And that's pretty much the end of your run. With this boss, he doesn't do anything particularly different from the heroic version, but the fire does significant damage. You cannot take ticks of it, and his prey target, or whatever it is, prey something, you'll see him cast it, does a lot of single target damage to random players. The healer needs to bomb heals into that person, and the tank needs to live while the healer's doing it. This is where stuns come in handy. If you have minor cooldowns, I would use them on it, but these guys are not super dangerous. So it's important to stay together as a group here. You'll notice we always try to go to the side of the fire that has dissipated first. In this case, we got separated because it was the first time we had done this with some of the people in this group. And I believe someone dies because of it right here. Yeah, our Death Knight dies because the healer's across the way and he just can't get to him. This is why it's important to stay together. On the plus side, if somebody dies right here, and they zone back in right when you kill the boss, they will port in right next to the fire that you need to click on, and we considered using that as a time saver, and I think it's still highly possible you would see that in the best runs on this place, but you don't need it, so that's okay. But if someone dies, they can do it, and it'll save you, 10 seconds. Every time, right after this guy does a strafing run, he immediately does a prey, so be ready for it. You're just going to have to bomb heals into someone, like right there, the mage got it. As soon as he dies, we have myself and usually a druid, but any engineer is ideal. Pop down here to click on the fire. The other people should be up there spamming the cannons so that you don't have to deal with this stuff. You'll see I use AMS just in case I run into it. You just want to click this thing as soon as possible. A lot of people have issues with cutscenes where you can't see your mouse cursor and you can't click on this cancel thing. If you just spam all your mouse keys and spam like shift and space and stuff, your cursor will come back, I guarantee it, and it's worth it, because you don't want to sit through that cinematic, obviously. Sometimes we use army on this pull. I did not this time, because I don't have it up. I used it on the first boss instead, as a DPS boost. But these guys do a lot of damage, these Ragers. When they get low health, they get a Berserk. It can be dispelled, or an Enrage, rather. But I think they hit about twice as hard when they get low HP, and that's why I chose not to pull the next group until the first group was essentially dead, and it's going to be the same with this group. Usually in a challenge mode you want to start moving when stuff is pretty close to dying. With these, if I start peeling off, I could easily just die on the way, so I would recommend being safe. This zone is a fairly comfortable cushion for gold time, so there's no reason to be too hasty, On this boss, there's not really anything different. There's an ad that pops up when he's at 30% or so. I don't honestly remember if it's there on heroic or not. I don't think so, but you just taunt it and ignore it. You can see I dropped Death and Decay there on the ranged because there's going to be ads that pop up again right there, and I was trying to get ranged aggro on them. Didn't go quite as planned that time, but usually it works pretty well. Conversely, the healer and the ranged could just stand closer to me, but we never saw a huge need for it. The goal here is to drag this guy to the door of the tower pretty much just as he's going to die, so that you're minimizing your running time, and I think we get the timing pretty good here. See, there's the ad. I just Death Griffin Man and we ignore him. And there goes the boss, and we just run through the door. Now here's where the two mobs that we skipped come into play again. They evaded when we went up the elevator, but they're still here, because you're actually going inverse of the way you came before. All we do here, though, since you're jumping off again, is ignore them yet a second time. And you can just jump straight off to the boss. We have slow fall, you don't really need it, although if one of them attacks you on the way, you're going to want to be careful jumping down here so that you don't die from falling damage. You should already have planned who's going into which cannons. We did not this time, so it's a little slow. but you want it to be your high burst classes. And in fact, in this case, we alternated with the mage and the death knight, because you can use your high burst cooldowns, you know, alternatively. Excuse me. The death knight can go up first, uses Pillar of Frost and do a ton of DPS. Then the mage can go up and use whatever he uses. And then the death knight can go up again. And you want to get this guy down in 3 phases. 4 is doable to get a gold time, but with high burst classes, 3 is entirely easy, so just focus on that. The druid, our feral druid, oh, he's not actually in this video. We have done this with a feral druid, and they do an insane amount of damage to the weak spot. Any high burst class, very good for this. Another trick you can use, I don't think our mage was Frost in this video, but he has done this as Frost. When they're up at the weak spot, he can drop his frozen orb down on the ground, and I can pull those little adds that we just AE'd onto it, and he can essentially spam Ice Lance onto the weak spot. You should be getting this guy pushed about when the next ad comes out that shoots those swarms at people. You want to get those dispelled or interrupted, but really what you want to do is just burn the crap out of the boss as soon as his armor goes off. He will get slowed, there's the ad, he will get slowed by the tar pools on the floor, which can be convenient, but really just don't let anybody get hit. If you're a melee and he focuses you, that's incredibly bad luck, but I would note that you can melee him from farther away than he can melee you. So, if depending on how much you feel like you need to take a risk to get a gold time, you can run, 10 yards in front of him and still hit your buttons and just sort of kite him very precariously along that way. And yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this guide. Check out the others. Hope you found this guide helpful, so subscribe, check out our website, and visit me on Twitch. Thanks.